Thanks for joining us. We're Finding God in Video Games, and today we are sharing our thoughts and reactions as well as predictions through the first 5 episodes of the Obi-Wan Kenobi limited series and what our thoughts are around the 6th episode that will be coming out next week. First of all, spoilers for anybody who is not caught up on the first 5 episodes. We will be speaking about them at length. So if you haven't watched them and you don't want anything to be spoiled for you, we are going to talk about everything related to those 5 episodes as well as anything interconnected from previous episodes, television series, movies, and anything from Star Wars canon. So just be forewarned. If you're still here, then we're going to assume you're completely okay with us talking about everything that's happened with Obi-Wan Kenobi so far.
We're good?
All right.
Okay, we're good.
First of all, we had thought about before we did this, we were thinking of maybe doing like an episodic recap piece, but I'm glad we didn't. Because honestly, after the end of each of the episodes to this point, I really felt like we were getting a really incomplete picture of the series, because the way that they would cut off, I was honestly dissatisfied at a couple different points with the series and concerned with where it was going to go. I can safely say after this 5th episode, I feel much more comfortable and satisfied with where we've ended up on a couple of the main pieces of it.
And there's a lot of them now, I feel like.
Well, I think the big thing for me in terms of the challenge and maybe the disconnect was Obi-Wan himself. And I think at the beginning, it was just really hard to see this character who had been so capable and so competent and so confident, just kind of he wasn't Obi-Wan Kenobi anymore.
And isn't Obi-Wan one of your favorite characters
Absolutely.
too? Like,
he's my favorite character in the series. So to see him in that state was very, very difficult. But we also didn't get a transition into it. Like, we just went from the last time we saw him, he was like, all right, I'm going to watch some kids for a minute, but we're going to be cool, right? And then decade later, and this guy looks like he's done 40 years of hard labor. He is not the same Obi-Wan we knew. But
really
now,
kind of depressed almost.
Well, I think that it helped, first of all, watching his combat with Anakin, and certainly through all of this, he kind of lost his sense of agency in life. He lost his purpose. He lost his hope. And I think that they did a great job, and McGregor did a fantastic job of displaying someone who's not just broken but lost. And that there's a difference between Obi-Wan as a I'm disappointed. I don't know how we're going to get out of this. This is a guy who everything he's ever believed,
it's just broken.
It's gone.
I guess when you think
no
about it, you never really saw Obi-Wan, obviously, after everything had fallen, after he lost Anakin, after he...
Well, he just beat Anakin in a duel, so Obi-Wan's like, okay, I know things aren't good,
he killed
but...
him too?
Yes,
like, he thought Anakin was dead.
We're going to be all right.
And then the loss of... the Anakin's wife.
Yeah, Padme, obviously. That it hit him emotionally, but I think those years of being not just disconnected from the Force, but realizing the Jedi are not coming back. We lost. The war is over. I would almost compare it, I know this is a horrible analogy, but when we watched the first part of the Avengers, the 2 Endgame movies, and we finished Infinity War, and you walk out of the theater after everyone that you like just got snapped out of existence, and you're
literally...
like, we lost?
After
it's over?
That movie, we were like...
Thanos wins? Like, that can't be, and everybody's gone.
Yeah.
And then now fortunately we knew there was an end in sight, but that's like a year later or whatever. Yeah. So you just had to kind of sit there in that space, and he has sat there for a decade, except he has no upcoming movie on the horizon. He's just watching this one little kid that he doesn't even get to be involved with. Like, I guess that's our hopes and dreams over there. But it was, this is his religion, this was his family, this was his identity, all got swept away. I think they did a good job showing that he was disconnected from the Force in a variety of ways. It was hard to see, and it's great to see him coming back to it. But seeing him completely disconnected, one, because he's dealing with the emotions of that, and two, for his safety. Like, he couldn't have Anakin sensing him. He couldn't have any of these Inquisitors finding him. So I like that he was someone who was not just a free spirit that no longer has a purpose in his life. They really captured the hopelessness of a guy that literally he's living to feed a sliver of meat to his animal, and just watch Luke play with toys from a
distance. Doesn't he steal it too? I'm pretty sure he was
stealing that. I mean, he's lost his whole moral code. Yeah. Because, well, what's the point? The temple is burned. Everyone that he knows and loved is gone, or the handful that's left are in hiding. So I think that from that perspective, now that I get to see him starting to come back in Episode 5, he's kind of becoming Obi-Wan again. He's mowing down stormtroopers.
That's what you said too. You're like, oh man,
that's the Obi-Wan I wanted to see.
Yeah.
He's now starting to gain confidence in a sense of, well, I have purpose. And that feels more like the Obi-Wan we saw in the movie, Episode 4, A New Hope, where this isn't an Obi-Wan who's lost or sad. He actually kind of has a twinkle to his eye, like, I knew it would come to this eventually. We were going to get back into the swing of things. He's not a lost soul anymore. When you saw him with the fight with Darth Maul, hopefully not spoiling anything from Clone Wars for you, but when you see him in that fight, this is an Obi-Wan that's like, yeah, I'm going to beat you.
Yeah.
And it's not even going to be hard. That is a confident Obi-Wan. I'm trying to see how do we get from the one we know now to the one that easily dispatches Darth Maul in a 4-second lightsaber battle. And then when it's time to go to the Death Star, this isn't some whiny, sad Obi-Wan. This is an Obi-Wan that is looking forward to his destiny and now sees hope. He's the harbinger of hope. He's where hope's going to come from ultimately. Right. So we're starting to see that version of him now. It was hard to see him not be that person for 4 episodes. But I'm glad we went on that journey because now I feel like it's earned when he's this person now. So I like that. I'm also glad we waited to record this because the story of the third sister, Reva, was hard to really follow her through line.
Right.
Like, her motivations were really murky. She seemed to be all over the place. And now we know why.
She was really unstable, emotionally unstable, making really rash decisions. And I just didn't understand. I'm like, how is she still a third sister with all these crazy things?
Why did they even give her keys to a car? She's
I didn't
really
understand
all over
how
the
she
place.
didn't get killed from the other Inquisitors because she was just all over the map all the time.
But now we know that this was actually always in the planning. Vader was well aware that she was a double agent. He was not being played by anybody here. And
that was a huge surprise to me to see that she was a youngling. I'm like, oh,
I wasn't surprised
that makes so much
by
sense.
that.
You weren't?
I figured we were going to come to that point because it was too hard to reconcile. How would she know that he's Anakin Skywalker? And how would she also, the same person who knows that Vader's Anakin Skywalker, still have some kind of vendetta against Obi-Wan Kenobi? There's only a couple touch points that exist there, and it comes to her being a youngling. So the youngling piece, that kind of felt mildly predictable. The double agent piece, I was actually kind of surprised that was her end game, was to try to betray Vader, considering that she, of all people, knows what he's capable of.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me, and especially when it finally came. I just looked at you and I was like...
She got handled like a child.
Well, here's the thing, and I told you this when it happened. Why you gotta make a sound right before you're about to attack? Like, obviously
she was
he's
very
hear
emotionally,
you.
But
if he doesn't
it wouldn't
sense
have
you,
mattered. She had zero chance. This is the guy that literally just pulled the ship out of the sky with the Force, and you think you're going to sneak up on him.
My question is, why didn't Vader, cut her in half or something?
Well, clearly, I'm starting to think that lightsabers to the midsection only kill Qui-Gon, and everybody else just seems to walk away from these all the time, like it's just nothing. Like Darth Maul gets cut in half multiple times, and he's just like, "But I'm good, though, right?" And then we have the Grand Inquisitor. He's just like, yeah, but I'm back, though. Okay, all right. Not that we need or care about his backstory, but you're kind of like, I know, but you kind of seem dead. So I'm just wondering why, none of these people ever watched the Avengers movies. Like, you have to go for the head. Like, why would you go
unless Vader didn't
else?
want her dead?
Well, that's my thought. Is there's got to be more than just a convenient plot twist here.
He had to know she wasn't going to die. He had to, if he could sense that she was a double agent, he had to be able to sense that one stab wasn't going to kill her.
One would hope that he's got a bigger plan afoot, and that if anyone should know that you can't leave a person laying there until you know they're dead, it would be Anakin Skywalker, who's only here because Obi-Wan didn't stick around a few more seconds and make sure that it was all good before he left.
Right.
So I don't really know what Vader's real intentions are here. Also glad we waited because I was starting to wonder why Hayden Christensen was even in the series, since we hadn't really seen anything of note. And then fantastic way that last episode just kind of layered in
the chemistry of that one fight between Obi-Wan teaching,
and it was a great parallel to what was going on, where we finally start seeing both of them as Master and Padawan. Even now, there's still a component of Anakin that is causing him to eventually fail in his quest to get Obi-Wan.
I thought that was really fun to see, and it made me really sad, though, too, because they were both thinking about it. Obi-Wan was thinking of that fight, and Anakin was thinking of that fight at the same time, and that was really emotional for me to be able to see, because obviously Vader still...
is strong.
Yeah, obviously Anakin still has feelings towards Obi-Wan in some way, shape, or form, or else why are you thinking about that?
As much as I never want to reference the final 3 Star Wars movies in any way, shape, or form because they're unmitigated garbage. But the whole concept of like the Force dyad thing between like Kylo Ren and Rey, and the idea that those two had like a connection to the Force, you got to think there's an aspect of that to the master and apprentice relationship, both for the Sith and for the Jedi, that they learn to sense things in the other. They learn to feel them through the Force. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that they would both be kind of in very similar places in terms of what they're processing right now.
Right.
But I really like the callbacks to that. It was great to see him as a Padawan again. And it was great to see Obi-Wan beat him, honestly. It's about time we got to see that.
I was going to say.
Well, I mean, he did get the upper hand this time. Sometimes, the winning is getting away. And in this case, he did. So I thought that finally paid off on why you have him in the role. And then we got Ultimate Vader on this episode. Like, that was Vader fully at the height of his power. He was pulling a ship down and defying gravity.
Dang! I was like, he seriously has that much power to grab an entire ship.
Fighting a lightsaber battle without a lightsaber. And
that was really cool.
Wasn't even stressed about it. Like,
he was just like, whatever. Boop, 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 boop. I don't even think he moved.
Barely, just his hands.
I think he maybe moved once like this.
But getting...
it was really slow, I felt like. I was like,
well, because he has to. He's half robot now. Yeah. But what you got to see is this is not Anakin fighting the fight. This is Vader. This is how Vader moves. This is what he is now. He is now a master of the Force instead of all the acrobatics that we like, which makes more sense when you see him later on in his battle with Obi-Wan. And a lot of people, they're like, that A New Hope lightsaber battle was really, really slow and methodical. This is how Vader fights now. Yeah. He is using the Force. He is using the power that he has behind him. Ultra confident. There's no flips, no tricks, just Force, and he's absolutely a master within his lightsaber capabilities now. Right. And couldn't have displayed that more.
I almost don't know how Obi-Wan would do fighting Vader.
Well, I think. Now, well, let's talk about predictions. We know that's coming. Episode 6. There has to be an Obi-Wan Vader fight.
Obi-Wan doesn't die.
He can't.
Vader doesn't die.
But now we get to the point where there was the iconic line last time we met. You were the master and I was the apprentice, and so that whole thing has to play out now. There has to be a climactic, real lightsaber battle, and Obi-Wan has to become Obi-Wan Kenobi again, the full version.
I wonder if he'll get there because of Leia.
Well,
in some way,
it's hard
shape,
to say.
or form.
Well, I don't know that the connection to Leia is as strong as Luke, though. He's known Leia for a couple of days.
And in the last
he's been watching Luke for 10 years, and obviously tying back to the original movies, his connection was always very strong to Luke. That's who he's kind of a godparent to, of sorts, a foster parent.
I mean, he's been staying on Tatooine just to watch and protect Luke this entire time.
That's his purpose.
So
that's
Vader's going to come there. I'd only have to assume that something's going to trigger Obi-Wan.
So we don't really know what's going to happen. You see Reva at the end, mortally wounded most likely, but probably going to survive. And she understands that there's something in Tatooine that he's going to be directed towards.
There's Owen.
The question is, does the climactic battle happen at Tatooine? Or is Obi-Wan going to have to intercept Vader at some point to prevent that from revealing itself?
But how do we get there? Because obviously Vader's not going to trust her.
Well, they're following them. Remember, their hyperdrive is down. It's inevitable that the Empire is going to catch up to them. Right. So the thought process would be Obi-Wan's going to have to choose the place where their battle takes place. It's got to be somewhere between where they are now and where they were intending to drop off these refugees. I mean, just to be fair, we've seen Tatooine so much in video games and in movies and in television shows. The entirety of Boba Fett takes place on Tatooine. I don't know that we need a lot more Tatooine. There's got to be other places where things happen.
There's got to be other
Wars
places
universe.
in the galaxy, right?
So I'm hoping that we see. I mean, so my hope is that we end up finding a place that's in between, maybe on Mustafar or somewhere where they have to land, and Obi-Wan uses the opportunity to fight Vader one-on-one as a way of letting the rest of them escape. Because we know Vader does not care about anyone on that ship except for Obi-Wan.
Unless he ever... But obviously he doesn't find out about Leia because he never knew.
Or Luke, for that matter.
Right.
I mean, why else would Vader never pursue them further unless he never finds out these are my children?
But, okay, remind me. My brain is foggy. So, obviously we know the iconic line, I am your father. How long did he know that he was Luke's father?
Well, we don't know that.
I mean,
we don't know at what point he becomes fully aware of that. Could be that Palpatine shares it with him off screen at some point. He's like, I have a funny story. You had kids. And Vader's like, dude, that's not something you tell me over lunch. But I don't know. We don't know. We don't know if that's something that Vader just becomes aware of when he's in his presence.
He
became aware of that previous to that, or if Palpatine's the one that finds out. Well, I don't think he can find out now, because otherwise he would not give up on his hunt. I mean, Luke Skywalker, and this is just me, Luke Skywalker grows up on the planet Tatooine with the name Skywalker. Like, it's not a real common last name. Like, his high school yearbook, Luke Skywalker. And at no point does anyone be like, you know, you have a last name in common with a famous mass murderer. Like, he just gets to be Skywalker. He doesn't take Owen's last name. But not everybody knows that Anakin Skywalker is Vader. Only But Obi-Wan they do know the name Anakin Skywalker. Like, he's a galactic hero.
Right.
So his name is well known, just because you don't know he's Vader. So at some point, the Gossip Network would probably be like, you know, it's kind of weird, but there happens to be a Skywalker where you grew up.
All right.
Just out of curiosity. Do you know him? So I don't know that we can ever get to Tatooine with Vader, or then it's really hard to explain why he never comes back. And he would never give up on going after Obi-Wan if he knew where Obi-Wan was at. So he can't know that's where Obi-Wan eventually returns to. So some way or another, at the end of this, Obi-Wan has to disappear and Vader has no idea where he gets off to. And I really hope it's not just Reva gets involved in it, because she's an interesting antagonist that's now somewhat on on Obi-Wan's side.
Is she, though? Because Obi-Wan left her again.
Well, that was the plan, though. But I can see where she would feel a certain kind of way about that.
Because she's like, oh, I'm alone again with Vader and I got stabbed again.
Well, in all fairness, if she wanted Obi-Wan to stay and fight, she should have gave him a lightsaber. But either way, I don't know what her true motivations are, and she's obviously got different things on her mind that involves revenge on both of them, it seems. So it's hard to figure out how things are going to get to a place where all of the principals walk away. The Grand Inquisitor must live.
Obviously.
He shows up in Rebels. Vader and Obi-Wan have to walk away alive, and Luke and Leia both have to get put back into the toy box without anyone knowing that they are related to Anakin Skywalker. So I don't see any way Reva leaves this episode alive.
I think Reva's going to die.
The question is, in what manner, and does it serve a purpose that is of value? But someone with that knowledge, and we have to allow another almost 10 years go by, and that doesn't get tracked down, she can't walk away from this.
I don't know. I know you already said you don't think it'll happen, but I have a feeling Vader's going to find out about them. Because he knows that Luke is his kid. When he says, I am your father, how else does he find out? And maybe he just doesn't care because his EI is gone?
I think he would care. I think the humanity that is in Anakin that still exists at this point would care if for
Unless he goes to Palpatine and Palpatine, like, behind the screens, and Palpatine's like, no, you need to let it be, or whatever. And then because that was the whole point between Vader and Luke, wasn't it? He was trying to get Luke to turn.
Absolutely.
So I think maybe Anakin was just waiting until they were older to be able to try and turn.
Part of Anakin Skywalker and patience go together for you.
Yeah. You're right.
Anakin is the least patient character in all of Star Wars.
He's very impatient, but he has grown a lot that we haven't seen. I mean,
he doesn't even have legs. He can't grow. But
I don't know. That's just my theory. I feel like he has to find out somehow, some way,
it's an interesting
he doesn't know where
theory.
They are, but he knows they exist, but he just doesn't know where they are.
That's an interesting theory. My take on it is he's going to walk away having absolutely no awareness of that. And I think it's because the Force won't allow him to know it yet. I think, obviously, the Force is its own character within this. I don't think the Force is going to allow him to come to that knowledge until it's safe for him.
But at the end of this last episode, Obi-Wan was very uneasy, and he said something is not right. I don't think that he would feel that with Reva finding out. Why does he care? Why would the Force be so strong on freaking him out just because Reva knows? I feel like...
Well, it's obviously a threat. Now, the first time there's a threat to his mission.
Right.
Which was to protect
Luke. And it's not Reva.
Luke is the principal person that he is challenged, because ultimately Luke at the end is the guy that has to be there for Palpatine to die. Like, that's the whole cycle. So Luke is the one that can't die within this. Obviously Leia's important because that gets Luke into the engagement, but maybe this is the first time that Luke is actually in a state of
danger,
threat. But I also don't understand how, Owen Large is going to walk away and nothing bad's going to happen to him yet.
Or his wife. Because his wife is alive too.
Sure.
So something weird is happening that I can't quite.
That's why I think that we're going to go somewhere we haven't gone yet, and we're going to see the final showdown.
There's no way this could be an hour.
We won't get that lucky. I think Reva doesn't make it. I wonder if Reva will actually get dispatched by the Grand Inquisitor rather than Vader at this point, because otherwise the Grand Inquisitor really looks like a pretty minor league player here. I mean, he did go out like a punk. And for him to be someone that later on takes 2 Jedi to take him down, he's got to do something in this episode.
There's going to be a battle
between I think him and Reva will go toe-to-toe at some point, and because of her wounds,
she's not going to win.
He's going to end up on top of that. But then on the other hand, you get Obi-Wan is going to put Vader down in some form or fashion in a way that lets everyone escape and also gets Luke and Leia into a safe position.
I just don't know what to really expect. I'm really, really interested to see where this is going to go. I'm really sad that we're already on the last episode. And I'm like, how? There's no way we can finish all of this in one episode. There's just no way.
Unless they're secretly got a second season that's going to be coming.
I mean, a limited series could be 2 seasons.
I mean, they could absolutely add more to this, but I would hope they at least plan to give us closure on these principal
Some type of closure, because I got a lot of questions. I don't know how we get from point A to point B at this point. So,
well, that's our thoughts, our predictions, and our hopes for the final episode. We'll recap the last episode after we watch it. Hope you get a chance to join us for that one as well. Thank you for joining us. We're Finding God in Video Games. We'll see you next time where we talk more Obi-Wan.